Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, depending from where you're joining us. Welcome to this feedback session titled Supporting Consistent Modeling with Automated List Generation. Um, my name is Benjafield, and we'll also have some input from Lydia Pintscher, as well as credit and thanks to Ifatu Niobi and Daria Alainen for their help putting this presentation together. You may be wondering who I am, and I'll just take a couple of minutes to introduce myself, as well as an exciting new team called Wikidata for Wikimedia Projects. If I'm a new face to you, hello. I recently started at Wikimedia Deutschland, and this will actually be my first session, so please be gentle. I'm still exploring and learning my way through the Wikiverse, so if there are any uncertainties or incorrect information, please forgive me, but feel free to point them out. Um, so, our team has been around for just under 6 months, and we're actually expanding our team in the new year with engineering manager and engineers. But currently, the three people you see on the screen in front of you, there's myself, Danny, as Community Communications Manager, Alicia Cohen, our UX researcher and designer. I think she might be lucky in the chat somewhere. And Ifatu Niobi, who is currently away. I'm not sure if she made it here today. I think she did because I've seen her around. So yeah, hello Ifatu. Yeah, and she's our product manager. So about the team, um, based on the name, you may have some thoughts or ideas about what it is we're doing. We all know that Wikidata has seen massive growth in its 11 years, both in terms of the volume of data stored on it, but also its scope, the evolution of its features and uses, its use in emerging technologies, big topic right now, and its connections to and third-party projects. But we really do need to ensure that this behemoth doesn't collapse under its own weight. The myriad user-created tools, gadgets, and scripts don't become obsolete, but continue to be supported and maintained so they can continue benefiting the community's workflows. Enter WD for WMP. We're a dedicated team within Wikimedia Deutschland's software department with a mandate to look for opportunities to create impactful and beneficial solutions to the blockers and issues in current integrations of Wikidata to the sibling projects. But I do want to make it clear that these decisions of what we work on, they don't occur within a vacuum. They require your input. We want to ensure that what we work on is wanted, even needed by the community that are going to be using it. So in the 6 months-ish that we've existed, our team, there's been lots of onboarding for, especially for me and Afatu. There's been a lot of foundational team setup tasks. We've attended our first conferences, and we even started interviewing our first community members, which is kicking off the discovery portion of our research plan. All these links you will find in the Everpad later, and I do hope some of you reach out to talk to us. So, using Wikidata's data in Wikimedia projects. The reason we've been interviewing community members is because we want to gather insights and opinions. We really want to hear about successes and challenges, frustrations and opportunities. If you've experienced any of these, which I'm sure you have when using Wikidata in a sibling project, then we absolutely want to hear from you. In the Everpad notes, even now or later, you will find the appropriate links to register with us for an interview. But if you don't want to speak with us, you can also reach our product page on Meta and leave a comment or an issue, or always on my talk page or discussion page. And yeah, let's speak. But yeah, we definitely want to continue attending conferences and events and meeting face to face with Wikimedians to listen to their stories. So I think that's enough of the shameless self-promotion. I'm sure you're all waiting for me to finally get on to the actual topic with bated breath. So the focus of the session, automated list generation. On this slide, you see some quite prominent, well-known examples. There's also the disappeared, missing, and outright killed victims of the Brazilian military junta. Um, Having an automated list like this helps maintain a historical record of the people they were and the crimes that were committed against them. Not a nice topic, but I think we can all. Uh, One second. Ah, there we go. But why do we bring this topic to data modeling days? If we have a single central repository for storing the data that compiles these automatically generated lists, then does it not go that as long as the source data is accurate, we can enforce better data integrity wherever the data is reused? And when that data is not accurate, then the amount of work required to fix it is surely much reduced. And I think we can all assume that there will be much less guesswork in figuring out where to discover the data to compile these lists if it's always stored in the same project, Wikidata in this case, rather than being strung out across a myriad of articles that could differ um, on all the different wikis that the information is contained. I think it's impossible to talk about this topic, to broach this, without discussing Listeriabot, the third-party tool developed by Wikismanska. Shortly before this session, a few hours ago actually, I checked recent contributions by Listeriabot and counted over 180 lists from over 100 wikis within a 1 hour space. I think that just goes to show how much use and reliance so many people have on it in like compiling articles or helping their individual workflows. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, probably use it yourselves. You'll understand better than me in my brief time here, new to the Wikiverse as I am, the benefits of recurring updates to your content. You've probably experienced bugs and timeouts that it suffered intermittently. You have probably debated with your peers over its usage within main namespaces. And I'm sure you've wondered if it or something like it should be integrated into MediaWiki. And that's kind of how we end up on this topic today is to have a discussion and feedback round about what the future of automated list generation looks like. We wanted to host this session partially to get our name, Wikidata for Wikimedia projects out there, to break the ice, not only like from you to us, but also from me to you. Um, we also wanted the community to have an idea about what we're doing and know who and where to contact us. and help shape the tasks that we'll be working on. But for today, we want that spirit of discourse on automated list generation. We've prepared a series of open questions, and we would appreciate your input. I think I will propose a question, and I'll encourage you to raise your hand and take the mic, or relate your thoughts, but also encourage you to add to the Everpad notes because hopefully there is a lot to talk about, and I definitely don't want to lose anything. So, familiarity use cases. How many of you are familiar with automated list generation tools or bots? Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was supposed to mute the microphone then. You know, it's very cold here in Germany at the moment, and I've got a bit of a cold. Excuse me. Oh yeah, I see a lot of support, a lot of Listeria junkies. That's good to know. Very happy to hear that. But do you use any other bots or tools for generating your list than Listeria? Perhaps there are some that we haven't heard of. See someone mentioning only Listeria, but there's also Lua code for list generating from Yarek. Jan, uh, either, both. I'm not looking at the Everpen notes at the moment, so for Shadow, if you know the name of the tool, please feel free to add it into the Everpad notes. Then next I'll ask, can you share a specific use case or example where you use automated list generation in your workflow? I'm sure you're all typing away, but this seems to be a quiet one so far. Ah, thank you for adding the links, Lydia and Nicholas. Then we'll move on to the next one. Um, benefits and challenges. If you've used Listeria, what issues have you encountered? Camilo notes that sometimes it is down, yeah. And Drake mentions about terrible date generation. Yes, Nikki, I agree with you. I mean, I've only recently started to use Listeria when I was researching for this topic, and whilst I eventually did start to understand the syntax of putting the tables together, it was interesting when I first began to try to get my head around how to format it. And that mentions it's slow for big or complex queries, and that's actually something we've been hearing a lot, and a big concern about it is actually for the timeouts that can accrue when someone asks a particularly big query. Nicholas mentions that Susanna did a wonderful job at display customization for Listeria on Meta, if he remembers correctly. And Nikki points out that it doesn't support lexemes or other entities properly. You have to hackily make a fake QID. I'll just give a couple, just a few more seconds on this topic before I move to the next one. Well, it's only 20 minutes past 5, so we have plenty of time, thankfully. Thank you for Shada for sharing the link. And more support for Lexeme support in the chat. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next question then. But if you remember anything, feel free to put it in the chat or the pad notes. And another link from Tuka for Susanna's Mysteria list. Wiki loves living heritage. Going to take that link. So, compatibility, integration, and accuracy. How do you validate the accuracy of your automatically generated lists? First, Ada points out that one never knows exactly when the Listeria list is going to be updated. Ian is asking for, it doesn't understand the question. So I guess it's asking how you know data that is presented on your list, whatever you call the template, how you know that that data is accurate. But I guess that can also be a question of how do you know that anything within the Wikiverse is accurate data, other than ensuring that the source is referenced, is cited, is reviewed by you and your peers. And the next question would be, what resources or support do you think would be helpful for users getting started? Hmm. I know definitely when I first started looking at it, it took me a while to get my head around it. Uh, I think I had it explained a couple of times. We talked with Mike Peel, and he showed us, for instance, the Brazilian military junta and the Arctic telescopes sort of showcase them. It was actually part of my onboarding when I first joined Wikipedia Deutschland. So I could already grasp the power of Listeria, even if at the time it was a bit over my head about how to create lists. So I do remember when I first started, there was a very brilliant Wikimedia Israel tutorial for Sparkle and creating queries, and that really helped me, like an interactive tutorial set of lessons, bite-sized lessons in leading you through your first queries and how Sparkle worked with the Wikidata query service. And I can imagine something similar would be very handy for Listeria. Jan mentions if we talk about list generation accuracy or data accuracy, and I would say why not both? And Nikki adds in a way to force it to list lexemes anyway with queries from their own namespace. Going to take that link to refer to later. And I think I'll move on to the next question. The future. Ooh, big topic. Um, What changes inside and outside the Wikimedia movement will influence the field of automated list generation in the next 5 years? Well, Versader mentions the scalability of Wikidata in general. I'm not very familiar with the acronym. Could you type it out for me, or anyone else that does, for SDC? Ah, thanks. Cheers. Structured data on commons for anyone listening in later. Camilo's doing a bit of self-promotion here, but they would prioritize the improved autofix, and then has a fabricated ticket. We'll add that link to the EPUB notes. Cortese also mentions list making on Commons with the ability to do Sparkle on Commons Wikibase. And Nikki says it seems for lexemes you can give the lexeme as an item, but for Commons you have to change the M in the MID to a Q. Then setting on to the next slide. Oh, we're already at the end of the Q&A. Then I think let's go back a few more minutes here. It was scheduled for Lydia to talk on the next slides. Is that still the case, Lydia?
Yep, can do.
Okay, all right. But we're in absolutely no rush, everyone. So if you want me to go back to any previous questions, maybe I rushed through them. It's a bit difficult when you don't have anyone else talking, you know, you feel the silence and the dead air. John mentions that early editing Wikidata from a list on Wikipedia would surely increase the acceptance of such lists on Swedish Wikipedia. Okay, just a little bit more time before we move on to Lydia's portion. And then maybe at the end, because we probably will still have a bit more time, we can revisit the topic, or you can have more space to add your feedback. So shall I hand it over to you, Lydia?
Sure, let's do this.
Okay. So you're going to tell me when to move on to the next slide, right?
Yes, will do.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So, for those who have been around for a bit longer, you know that we've been talking about this topic for a bit longer. And now part of these discussions was also trying to figure out how we could potentially do this conceptually, because there are different ways how we could do this. And so far, I've been thinking about 3 ways that this could go. That I would roughly categorize as defining lists where they are used, defining lists centrally, and wiki functions. So let's look at the first one on the next slide. So the first one, defining lists where they are used, that is basically what Listeria is doing right now, right? You're storing the Sparkle query in the article where you want the list to show up. The query is then executed automatically on a regular interval or on demand, and your article is edited. This has some benefits and some drawbacks. The alternatives would be on the next slide. Defining the list more centrally. So in this case, I imagine the Sparkle query to be stored on Wikidata itself and executed there regularly or on demand. And then whenever you have an article that needs a list, you would just get that list from Wikidata. Again, that has benefits and drawbacks. And here I can imagine two options. One is that you have the query result be just a list of item IDs, and then on your Wikipedia article, you make it pretty and format it in all the ways you want, and you might get some additional data via Lua and so on. Or the second option is you do all of that prettifying and building the list into its final state on Wikidata itself, and then you just transclude the final result of that. So depending on how much customization we want for each of the articles of that list or that use that list, one might be better than the other. And then there's a new contender in town called Wikifunctions. So let's look at Wikifunctions. Wikifunctions could potentially also play a role here in that if we allow Wikifunctions to make queries to Wikidata, then we could write functions on Wikifunctions that have as their output whatever list we desired. And then a Wikipedia article could just call that function and include the list that is generated wherever they would like it. Now, these three options, as I said, all have benefits and drawbacks, and I would love to hear a bit what you think your preference would be, what you see as benefits and drawbacks of each of those. Yeah. Then maybe you can go back to the overview of the three. Cool, thank you. And there are some comments in the chat that I have now missed. Okay, James says, I don't see the point of centralization unless the same list is being used across many Wikipedias. And I think this is a very good point, but there are actually lists that are reused across projects, or we could think about if this is something we want to encourage more. Yeah. And Nikki says there are a lot of lists of X pages. There are a lot of lists that could be shared. Cool. Jackie is saying, how will the wiki functions address the need to perform updates or changes in bulk for Wikidata items? Jackie, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you want to elaborate?
I don't think I mentioned it before, but Crusader also mentioned that they'd like to know how much load having unfettered use of Listeria has on systems. Is it something that needs to be selective about, or just keep making more maintenance pages with Listeria knowing 50% will never get looked at?
Sorry to repeat to make sure I understand this correctly. This was about how much load Listeria is generating on the query service, and if this is something we should worry about.
That's what I took away from it. Yeah.
Cool. It has not come up so far as a big issue. But of course, if you have a ton of lists that are very heavy queries and you no longer look at them, then it might be nice to remove them, but in the big picture, it hasn't turned up as a huge issue yet.
So Lydia, the
Mhm.
question I have was in some way, so if we were to perform and do some exercise on with listeria and discover the series of bulk change that may benefit from that, of course we could try to use quick statement, pull out the content and push it back in. And I was just curious if wiki functions is another way to address that change?
Maybe I would ask that to the Wiki Functions team, to be
Okay,
honest.
thank you.
I don't know. um, okay, Jane is saying that you can also adjust the frequency, how often Listeria is updated to a monthly basis. That is also a good point. And Susanna is asking, how does the concept of result sets bigger than a wiki page fit in the picture? That is also a good question. So one of the, I would count that as one of the problems with currently that exists currently with Listeria, that it can generate results that are too big for an individual wiki page to hold. How to solve that? I'm not sure yet. I mean, beyond making the query result smaller by splitting it up. And Tuka is asking, does any solution let the wiki editors add an on-wiki column or like a remarks to the generated table? Yeah, so one thing we already have on the list, my favorite example is the list of Star Trek episodes on English Wikipedia, which has nice episode descriptions, which of course should not be on Wikidata, but we still want to integrate them with a query result. Not sure if and how we can solve this, but it's definitely recognized. And Nikki elaborates that if we store it centrally, it means that smaller wikis don't have to create the list themselves. They can reuse an existing one. Yes, exactly. And Jan is asking what's the max size of a wiki page is. And I'm also not sure, but I've had people complain about hitting the limit with listeria lists that are very long before. One other thing that there's demand for is more mini lists within info boxes. A frequent blocker is inability to ask for values of inverse properties in Lua. Yes. So this is actually something that I've been talking to Danny too for wiki functions, and especially this inverse queries, simple inverse queries, is something that he wants as one of the core things that wiki functions can provide. How we're going to do this, again, not entirely sure yet, but it is one of the things that's on the table. Cool. And Jarek is saying a list with 2,500 rows makes a wiki article hard to edit. Yeah. That sounds right. All right, we have 3 minutes left. Denny, do you have anything else to add before we close?
Well, I think I just want to thank you all for listening patiently to me. It was very fun. I was a real bag of nerves when I gave this session. I hope it didn't come across too badly. And yeah, just to remind everyone that we are a new team, but we really want to hear from you. If you have feedback about how you use Wikidata within sibling projects, um, then get in touch with us. Talk to us. Tell us your opinions, your frustrations, your insights. Help us discover which opportunities there are for us to remove these blockers and issues from your workflows. And for any notes or to get in contact with us, check the Everpad, or I can just bring the presentation to the relevant slide. Ah, thank you for your attention.